Andy Crouch from All About Beer here, welcoming our friends at Departed Souls Brewing Company as our newest supporters. The pride of Jersey City, Departed Souls has produced a wide range of 100% gluten-free and 100% definitely not gluten-free craft beers. For more than a decade, the brewery has radiated creativity and loves a good pop culture-inspired beer name. Stop by the Jersey City Tap Room and show our friends some love next time you're in the area. And if you want to join Departed Souls and the more than 25 other underwriters helping us pay our writers, podcasts, and artists, check out allaboutbeer.com/support. It's an affordable way to join the All About Beer community.
Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Hall. Sometimes we all need some grounding, a bit of perspective. In these times, I like to check in with brewers that have been at it for a while and are making it work, putting in the long hours, never letting up on quality, and staying true to the founding principles of the company. Jeff Erway of New Mexico's El Cumbre Brewery is here to provide all of that and more. But first, do you have story ideas, guest suggestions, or just want to reach out? You can get me anytime on email at johnhall@allaboutbeer.com. And as you know, and I've been talking about this on the show for a while, and you hear Andy at the cold open of the shows, the way we're able to keep bringing original content to the beer industry and to curious beer drinkers is through your support. We've created an affordable underwriting program that's easy on your budget, helps get visibility, and is an altruistic way to directly fund writers, photographers, and editors. Please visit allaboutbeer.com/support to learn more. When you're at the website, poke around a bit, and you can read some of the recent articles, peruse the archives, and tune into other podcasts like One Iconic Beer, Brewer to Brewer, and the All About Beer podcast. You can also follow us on social media at All About Beer to keep up with everything else we have going on. And now, here is a word from this episode's sponsors.
Here's a story brewers know all too well. You walk into the brewery straight to the tank. You pull a sample to do a forced diacetyl test, and you wait for it in silence. Something feels not quite right. You reach into the water bath and bring the flask to your nose, and it's a butter bomb. The logistics start running through your head. Do we hold the tank? We have accounts waiting. How many days until it clears? And then you wake up and remember that you use Berkeley Yeast Fresh Chico. It's got ALDC inside every cell, so diacetyl never forms in the first place. Through primary, through dry hopping and hop creep, diacetyl stays ultra low. So you don't have to add ALDC or wait for diacetyl to clean up. And most importantly, you don't have to wake up in a cold sweat worrying about production nightmares like these. Fresh Chico is now available in dried bricks for as low as $88 at berkeleyyeast.com.
We'll get into the show in just a moment, but first, this episode is brought to you by Barrel One Collective, and I'm joined by Jordan Kellum. He is the brand manager of Harpoon Brewery, which has just released a new collaboration with LL Bean. So Jordan, welcome, and tell us about this collaboration that, as I understand it, graduated from being a two-time limited time offering to now a seasonal. How and why did that happen?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time today. And to just get into the collaboration a little bit, we were super excited, a few years ago when we first started talking to LL Bean about the idea of a potential collaboration. And we ended up landing on a what we called the Harpoon LL Bean Harvest Lager, brewed with Maine-grown malt. And that was released in draft and limited quantities, but mostly in 16-ounce 4-packs. Across our distribution footprint, mostly in New England. We brought that back for year 2 last year. We took Harvest out of the name and let lager really speak for itself. So it was the Harpoon LL Bean Lager, really focusing on the LL Bean lifestyle elements and storytelling elements on the back of the can. However, after year 2, we realized that with LTOs like that, there's really limited excitement, I guess you could say, with distributors. With back in the day, only like 6 or 7 years ago, everyone was doing LTOs and they were just getting massive floor stacks and whatever it might be, and it's just not the case these days. And we really wanted to give the collaboration the best chance to succeed and really do the best job at telling our collaborative story. And a 16-ounce 4-pack just wasn't really doing the job. So we talked to them. We found out this year they were celebrating their 90th anniversary of their Bean of Freeport signature Scotch Plaid Tartan, which is a lot to say. But they were really excited about that. And we are also celebrating 10 years of Flannel Friday this year. And we thought that would be sort of a match made in heaven if we could figure out how to combine those two things. And so naturally, we decided to take their signature flannel pattern, apply it to our Flannel Friday packaging. And when we saw the initial proofs come back, we were like, holy crap, this is a home run. And spanning multiple SKUs and with expanded distribution and display opportunities, we just felt it was a no-brainer.
So for those who know Flannel Friday from the past, is the beer the same?
The beer is the same. We did what we really did like about the previous LTO is that we added that main grown malt element, which we didn't previously have in Flannel Friday. So really,
Yeah,
all things stayed the same. We just looked for an opportunity to sub out some of the malt for some of this main grown malt from Stone Path in Lisbon Falls, Maine, and so without, of course, compromising quality or flavor or any of that good stuff, we were able to sub that in, so we have that additional element to tell across our packaging and display materials.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be back with us at the bottom of the show to talk more about this collaboration with LL Bean. And in the meantime, we're thankful for the company's support in sponsoring this episode. You can get the latest on the brewery and learn more about this collaboration by visiting harpoonbrewery.com. It's always a pleasure to talk with Jeff Erway of La Cumbre in New Mexico. He's been at this longer than most and has always operated with a clear vision, even when it's not popular and bucks the face of trends. While likely best known for its elevated IPA, the brewery, of course, makes other styles, and quite well. And as you'll hear, sometimes shows up in popular culture. There's a lot to go through. Here's our conversation. Jeff, it's good to be talking to you again. It's been a while.
You too, John.
And
Yeah.
I reached out months and months and months ago because during the day when I was supposed to be working and just decided that I wasn't going to, I dialed up an Apple TV show called Pluribus. And and I'm watching a particular scene, and it's like, that's a brewery. Like that's got to be a brewery. They're trying to make it into a dairy plant, but I was like, I recognize the shape of that stainless. And then in a later scene, the main character in the show is standing by herself and drinking one of your beers, and I was like, oh, like that's cool. So I emailed you.
Well, she was actually drinking water.
Oh well,
drinking
drinking from your package.
We had to literally package like 2 cases of water for them.
I mean,
specifically for that scene.
Okay, it's still pretty good branding. I mean,
it's great.
Like they weren't hiding it at all.
No,
they weren't trying to obfuscate what it was, and I mean, and it fits in for the location and theme of the show. How did that all come about?
So let me see here.
I mean, now that you've already broken my heart about that it's water and that they're not drinking real beer.
Well, it's I think it's a union thing.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to. So, anyways, the production assistants to the show had struck out at a couple of dairies and such, and they had the bright idea that, hey, can we make a brewery look kind of convincing? And they knew that we were a pretty sizable brewery, and they wanted they approached me in my tap room and said, hey, would you be interested in renting out the space? I was like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
And they took over our entire facility for 2 days.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's that's quite the commitment, because again, it's probably only on screen for 45 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
like
there's
that.
2 full days of production on that. I mean, I can understand why some dairies would pass. When you find out like what's fictionally being created inside those tanks. It's not necessarily what you want to be associated with, but it's when the show came out. I mean, did you have regulars? Did you have like watch parties? Like, were people as excited to see your location and your branding as I was?
So the producers were very guarded with what show it was.
Okay.
They did not tell me. Um, and no one from my company was allowed to be on site, sans two employees that they had hired for the day to basically help them move equipment around in a safe way.
So be forklift certified. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So they made a couple of my employees very, very happy by paying them production, rates
Sure.
to basically be their consultants for the site. And nobody else was allowed to be on site at all. Everybody had to leave.
That's wild.
So they rented the parking lot, everything. And because and no one saw who the stars were. There were security crews. It was an intense production.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, so walk me through that, because that's a leap of faith, right? Where, I mean, you kind of have to trust that it's going to work out for you. And
well, I trust that Apple has really good insurance.
Sure.
Namely their bank account.
Sure.
And they had to.
Everybody on staff gets an iPhone. Yeah.
They had to name me an additionally insured. And then, I'm not going to lie. They definitely, they make it worth your while.
Sure. But ultimately, I mean, to be associated with a show that you don't even know what it's going to be, right? Did they tell you,
they told me it was going to be a dairy scene. They told me what they were trying to do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they said, we want you to package up some water for us in your packaging, and they're going to drink it on the show.
Yep.
Okay. But you didn't know the context of it. It could have been
none.
Like an Eyes Wide Shut scene, or, I don't know. Like, just, yeah.
That would have been cool. I did not know the context, but, when you look at Apple TV, what shows they're producing, it's not like, there's nothing too upsetting. I wasn't too worried.
Okay. So after it aired, though, I mean, were you getting the calls from folks of like?
No, I mean, my phone, the day after the night of, and the day after it came out, I got, I don't know, hundreds of texts from other brewers, mostly, that knew my facility and were asking me, get the, I remember, I think Tim Matthews just,
Oscar Blues. Yeah.
GTF, GTFO. Yeah. So anyways, I got a lot of texts, and I got a lot of Facebook messages and stuff, but, I mean, it was a fun experience. They've asked me if we'd ever be interested in doing something like that. I was like, sure, whenever you want, let me know.
And now you have a sign-up sheet on the employee wall of who wants to be a production assistant for the next time. Yeah, gonna have to do the lottery on that. I mean, it's cool to me. I just finished. I'm always late to TV shows, so I just finished Silicon Valley, which is an HBO show, and in some of the later series, Drake's Brewery starts to show up in the background.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm.
And some very obvious product placement. One of the characters is always drinking Old Rasputin from North Coast, which I think is just like a really cool flex, and just problematic that it's all the time, constantly in those little 12-ounce heritage bottles and things like that. But it's neat when you see small breweries and that there's production tied to a region, that it's not just an AB cash grab or Coors or like whatever, where it's just sort of somebody shoehorning in, which I've seen on other shows as well. There's somebody somewhere did that, where Molson Coors bought clearly ad space on that sitcom for one of their hard seltzers. to the point where one of the characters names it and was like, "Hey, I'll have another one of those." And I think the brand's already been discontinued, so like it's not even, worth it kind of thing. But it is talk to me like with when there's that authenticity to place. Talk to me about how the brewery has evolved in your city with your drinkers, you know, in that with that sense of place, which you all have always seemed to have a really strong tie to the region, a really strong, understanding of who you want to be there. How, how has that evolved from the beginning to where it is now?
Just sitting down over here in a more comfortable chair.
All right, that's fine. How is that? How has that evolved for you?
So I don't know that it really has, honestly.
Okay.
The thing I think so we have a fanciful name, right? It's not, any city I name, I can put the word beer company after it or brewing company, right?
Sure.
That's, an identifier, but it's not fanciful. So we have a fanciful name. I think, if I can, I would say like, my biggest kind of success professionally was, making elevated IPA sort of a benchmark, like the most recognizable craft beer from New Mexico. And that took obviously a very concerted effort by a big team of people. And it tickles me pink that it's still growing as a brand, and that it's, almost 16 years later, it's still one of the top selling beers in the state. And that it's still, that there's even interest obviously from Arizona and Colorado. I think, even starting back, 2010, 2011, 2012, we did a good job of just of positioning the company, the brewery, as being like, we brew beer. That's all we do. We don't do anything else. We don't make food. We don't make cider. We don't make seltzers. And it's always kind of stayed that way. And, you speak to authenticity. You talk about authentically, Burqueño or New Mexican. I think that it turned out to be one of the better decisions. Well, actually, several of the better decisions that we made as a company to simply not chase those trends and to stick to what we were passionate about, which is, brewing great beer. And are the types of beers that we're passionate about, has that evolved? Absolutely.
Okay.
I love the fact that my tanks are tied up for, 45 days at a time making Czech style Pilsner, because that's what is selling right now. That's what the hardcore craft beer consumer wants right now. And isn't that freaking beautiful that we've come full circle right back
so
to
wild, but
it's awesome. It is excellent. I just love going into my tap room and seeing just a line of brilliantly clear lager, right up and down the bar. And I'm just burst a tear to my heart. And I just love it. And obviously, there's still the 60% of my consumers that drink the same beer every time they come in, and that's elevated.
Yeah.
But I think the brewery, and I feel so blessed to because I did not do this on my own. I mean, yes, I'm extremely proud of it, but I'm so blessed to have worked with the people I work with that have helped to make the company and the brewery synonymous with craft beer in New Mexico, and only craft beer. We have not gotten sidetracked. We have not given, brain real estate to, how are we going to market this mango seltzer? How are we going to market this THC, beverage with passion fruit? I don't fault all of the breweries that are chasing every little possible new stream of revenue, especially if you're struggling financially in any way. Like, I totally get it. I feel like my success is so freaking tied to the timing of when we opened, and just the market conditions in Albuquerque at the time. But I think the fact that we've stuck to what we do, the fact that you're going to go in and you're going to see only, hopefully world-class beers, of many different styles on my taproom wall and on the store shelves. I feel like it has lent us a great deal of authenticity with the most ardent of craft beer consumers. Because those people that were sitting at my tap room the day we opened back in December of 2010, that were really excited to try my first batch of IPA because they'd had, my beers from a past job. I think those people they are, how should I say, reassured by the fact that we've just stuck to that and
Yeah.
do it the best we can. We haven't lost any sort of relevance with them. And I think so much of these trends, by craft breweries were to attract a different consumer. And I am all for it. The problem to me is that the consumers they were trying to attract had no interest in truly identifying as a craft beer consumer. You walked around the GABF in 2004 and, yeah, it was problematic in that, like, how many overweight, white bearded guys, could you fit into one room? There were a lot of.
Hey! They left
of
their mom's basement and their dial-up internet from Beer Advocate to go all the way to Denver.
Hey,
Don't be mean to.
it was ratebeer.com. But,
Oh yeah, yes. 6 to 1, half dozen of another.
I was
but yeah,
ratebeer.com. Yeah. So, anyways, I think
you were ratebeer.com. I want to talk to you about that, but yeah.
Oh yeah. So those consumers, granted, they're drinking less every day and good for them. But, there were people that came behind them too. And I feel like, our tap rooms in 2014, 2015 were filled with millennials and Gen Xers that truly loved craft beer. They
Sure.
loved it.
Yeah.
And many of those people still love it today. And I think, have we completely lost Gen Z? Many of them. Yeah, it sucks. And I don't, and I can cry about that all I want. But what I'm not going to do is compromise the fact that I'm a craft brewer. We're a craft brewery. That's what we do. And hopefully there's enough as the market, contracts, there's still enough interest in that authentic craft beer to support those breweries that choose to continue to brew it. And I think what we're starting to see this year, hopefully, is that, yeah, there are. And some breweries are going to get lost, and some breweries have gotten lost. Some breweries are going to get lost in the future. And that's always unfortunate. But I think the industry as a whole there's every possibility that it will come out on the other side strong and ready for the next upward curve. There's a lot of doom and gloom, especially, the last 5 years. There's been just a ton of doom and gloom at different conferences and on different forums. And I'm we've had down years, but they haven't been brutally down. And we're having an up year now. And I'm again just so elated that things are looking up for us. And I think I am done with the doomsday sayers about craft beer. I think craft beer's got a rich future ahead of it, and it might not be as strong financially as it was in 2018, and that's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
No, and I agree with you on that. And I've been thinking a lot about and talking a lot with folks about brewing with intention and understanding what a brewery wants to be, what the ownership wants it to be, what the beers the brewers want to make that they are proud of. Because one of the things that I saw come out of 16, 17, 18, when everybody started making hazies was, oh, this is easy. All you have to do is Citra Mosaic and make it look a certain way, and we're going to be rich. And it didn't pan out for a lot of folks. They were living week to week, and
that is a ridiculously hard beer style to learn how to brew right.
Yes, and
that a lot of those ridiculously hard.
Yeah, and a lot of those brewers that were making it back then were like, well, if Treehouse and Trillium and The Alchemist can do it, so can we. And what they didn't realize was, one, smart brewers, two, technology, sometimes blending, that it wasn't just, hey, 13 pounds per barrel of Citra Mosaic and we're great.
No, not at all.
But that was sort of what led into, I think, COVID, and that didn't happen. A lot of breweries would have closed 6 years ago, and a lot of them got the lifeline. And we talked about all this, but like there's the authenticity and the brewing with intention and understanding what you want to be, and not trying to, basically just run your own race. Is you can't worry about what everybody else is doing. You can't necessarily chase the trends unless you're going to create one, unless you're going to be, the brewery that becomes known for some brand new innovation. But I'm curious about your approach, because when I look back to 2011 or thereabouts, and I have to check the numbers on this, but it was, craft beer had 12% of the overall marketplace. And these days, craft beer still has 12% of the overall marketplace. And, as, the youngest of Gen X, I'm getting older and drinking less. And the GLP-1s, I know, are screwing up a lot of things for a lot of folks, drinking wise. You mentioned Gen Z and all of that. Like, as drinking habits shift generationally, what are you doing to, one, keep people coming back, and then two, to get new people coming in? Like I imagine there has to be a bounce off of being on Pluribus of, hey, we're that brewery that was on that show, come give us
We've
a try.
Never used it to market.
Okay.
We've never used it to market. And
can I ask why?
A bad marketeer.
Okay.
It's funny. I think I have this, and it's certainly like very old fashioned and very German kind of attitude about, marketing our products. We are so hesitant to to push really hard. We've always just kind of relied on making killer beer and crossing our fingers, I guess. Obviously, I've got a graphic designer who's got the office next to me. I've got, a social media person that's in the offices right across. Obviously we do market now, but I was always super I don't know, I shouldn't have to market it. It's great beer. Go drink it. People have been drinking it for 10,000 years.
Sure.
And this is measurably some of the best beer that's ever been brewed. right? Because like think about all the technologies we have, all the things we know nowadays, and now you are lucky enough. You all are lucky enough to benefit from the fact that you get to drink nice, clean, crisp, easy drinking beer.
Yeah.
And I think so. So I think I've already kind of addressed that. I feel like with millennials and Gen X craft beer drinkers, they identify as craft beer drinkers.
Yes.
And these so many of these people, like you see them, you can see them from you could, I hate to say push any stereotypes, so I won't. But Gen Z, we do have many customers that are Gen Z in our tap rooms. And do some of them come in and drink the cider that we keep on tap from a brewery down the street from us? Yeah, they do. That's why we have, because they're welcome to come into our tap rooms and join their friends. It's not like I'm just not gonna brew stuff specifically to them. For the last 170 years, the number one selling style of beer worldwide was something pale and light,
Yeah,
and crystal clear. I don't believe for 1 second that Gen Z is just going to 100% shift that paradigm.
Oh, I don't think they are. Yeah.
I don't think they are. I'm sorry. I just don't. And I think that, we always have at least 3, if not 4 varieties of, crisp, easy drinking lager on tap. And I do that for a reason, because I want to have a variety of beer that I want to drink and the brewers want to drink. But I don't feel like brewers are going to gain themselves a ton of traction with consumers by trying to convince consumers that they're something other than a brewer. Those consumers that were going to the brewery, to me, they were going to the brewery to get their seltzer on draft at the brewery. By and large, those consumers were not loyal to any brand, which is why when all of a sudden there was a real brand that was created that very much targeted that audience, they abandoned the craft breweries that were putting out seltzer. And what I want brand loyalists. I want as many brand loyalists as I can create. And are you going to get a ton? Do I have, the state's 2 million people? Let's say 1 million of them drink beer. Let's say 10% of them, 100,000 people are drinking craft beer. Do I have 100,000 craft beer loyalists in the state of New Mexico? Absolutely not. No. Do I have 1,000? Yep, I definitely do. Do I have 5,000? Maybe. And those people, not only do they drink our beer the majority of the time, but they get other people to drink my beer too. And now that these are a lot of millennials, Gen Xers, now that their kids are turning 21, they're turning those kids into craft beer loyalists.
Sure. Well, they've also had the benefit of seeing this beer in their parents' hands in the fridge, have probably,
right,
snuck it themselves at some point before their 21st. And, yeah.
I was lucky enough to be in Munich on a Sunday back in September of last year.
Okay.
And I sat down at the Schneider Weiss Braustäferl there on the Marienplatz.
Yeah.
And it was Sunday, and I did what you're supposed to do on a Sunday. I went into Schneider Weiss, got Weiss first, sat down at around 9:00, right before the Catholic Church is let out, right? And get your table early, right?
Yeah.
And watch
pubs or church, yeah.
Watch the parade of people come in. it is a blessing to see. It warms the cockles of my heart to see, a brewery that busy. And what I noticed that was by 10 o'clock, I could count 5 tables within sight that had 3 or more generations of family members sitting at them. And there was one that clearly had 5 generations, all sitting at the same table. It was incredible. You had people from, as young as like 17 drinking all the way up to like 90. And they're all sitting there having Weiss beer and enjoying their time together. That didn't happen by accident. Those are brand loyalists. Those are people that are creating new drinkers, and hopefully they're responsible drinkers, and hopefully they're proud of Schneider Weiss, and they should be. It's a world-class beer. You go down the street to the Ondex pub and you're like, same view, people drinking Helles instead. Gorgeous. And the Germans have something figured out there. That's brand loyalty. And
so how do you, like, when you come back from a trip like that and then you stand in your tap room and you look around what you're doing, did you change anything to say, all right, I have this same ability, I have these same circumstances, just with 200 less years behind me?
Well, 200 less years and about 500 less seats.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm not going to go and put in a kitchen. Why? Because brew pubs to me, I have many brew pubs that I love, and I have many brew pub owners that I love, but that's a restaurant that happens to have a brewery attached to it, not the other way around. So I'm not going to do that. And, I have no interest in being a restaurateur, really. I think that if in this business, what's worked for me is creating a space that seems really authentic and creating a brand that is very authentically craft beer. And I am really unapologetic for that. And, has it cost me consumers? Yeah, absolutely. But
How so?
They're consumers that don't want to drink craft beer and they don't want to be associated with craft beer. So let them go do something else. Can you create a consumer out of them for 6 months? Maybe. But I want to find as many of those people that want to identify as craft beer drinkers, and I want to make all of them loyalists, as many of them as possible, because those are the people that are going to be open to trying the next beer I make. Those are the people that are going to support us because they want to be associated with the company. But these are not it's so interesting going to like a club soccer match, and you see what is essentially just a branding business that has athletes, and you watch and the fervor with which these fans, these loyalists, cheer on their team. Well, there's a team La Cumbre, and they love our company, and they love our servers, and they love our marketing, and they love the beers that we brew, and they create other loyalists, and they create other drinkers, and they bring people, they bring their family and friends to our tap rooms. And they bring our beer over to their Labor Day parties, and I'm not at all interested in trying to convince somebody that they want to be a craft beer drinker. Because I think so many, especially in Gen X, so many have already convinced themselves they're not, and that's that's okay. I'm lucky in that I'm not in a position where I'm too worried about it, because I think that we keep on seeing more and more craft beer loyalists fill our tap rooms. So great. So that's what I focus on. I focus on making loyalists. I focus on making great beer that hopefully that they love. and that they want to identify with. They want to throw the shirt on their back. They want to throw the hat on their head. They want to bring their beer to family and friends' houses.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned being able to sell in Arizona and Colorado as well. And are you beyond those two states?
No, that's it.
Okay.
And I think that's a timing thing more than anything else.
Okay. I was going to ask about translation, but yeah.
Yeah, no, sure. Translation's a big thing, but I mean, I think we would have done fine in Texas. I think we would have probably done fine in Nevada. I think New Mexico's got a cool brand, as just a state. As somebody who did not grow up here, but who has now lived here for 24 years.
Okay.
The overall vibe of the state, as seen from people, I think from the outside, is just it's kind of cool. Now, granted, we have so many problems as a state, right? We've got tons of problems, but the people from New Mexico are proud to be New Mexicans. I'm proud to be a New Mexican, and Colorado was our first state, and that sounded so batty. It sounded so crazy to like try to go into Colorado, especially when we did. I think we went in 2016. I mean, we first started with Scott, and that was like 2013, 2014. We started distributing beer through Scott up in Durango.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. They had one of those early craft distribution networks, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I thought about doing that for a while, and I didn't. But we do self-distribute. In any case, we signed on with Crooked State. We were the third brewery that they signed to distribute in Denver, and I'll make no bones about it. By and large, Crooked State has absolutely killed it for us. They've been an excellent partner.
That's nice.
Yeah, they are fantastic. And Colorado entering that market in 2016 has been exceptional to us. They really have. We have consistently grown in that state. And don't get me wrong, we're not getting rich, distributing beer in Colorado, but it's profitable, and we have really good reception up there, and it's consistently grown. Again, great distributor, but they've consistently grown our brand there. And I think 2013 to 2016 was a great time to start distributing into a state.
Oh, sure.
And I think
responsibly.
Correct.
Because I mean, that was also the era, I just want to point out, where there were breweries that were like, hey, we're going to launch 16 new states in the next 3 months. And then, by 2018, we're like, so we're pulling out of 14, of our states in the next 4 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember hearing Rob Todd talk about, the kind of, he had a really good story about, how they basically grew, like a 1-inch deep pool, over like 30 some states. And he said, and one of the best business moves they ever did was to really pull back and rein in the number of states that they were distributing to.
Yeah. Caledonia Dogfish has talked about that as well. And, there's a whole bunch of smart people, because the further away you get, and you can't trust your distributors always. But anyway, I stepped on you.
Yeah. But I think, more than that, like So let's just talk about today, right now.
Yeah.
If I look at Ohio is a huge state. I don't know the population. It's enormous. What kind of translation does New Mexico have in Ohio? I don't know, man. I don't think that's that great. And furthermore, what percentage of the population there speaks Spanish? I don't know. I'm betting not a ton.
Okay.
And so does La Cumbre translate really well to Ohio? Oh, and there's this other problem. World-class local beer. If I can go down the street and get a 6-pack of Fathead's Headhunter for $11.
Sure.
No, it's probably 12. Um,
We'll call that.
why?
Yeah.
Why? Oh, and by the way, that Fedhead's Head Hutter that was sold in Cleveland's 2 weeks old. Why am I going to go to that same store and buy 3-month-old elevated IPA for 15 or $16 because it had to be shipped across the country?
Yeah.
Again, I'm trying to make craft beer loyalists. I'm trying to make brand loyalists. And I'm not going to make loyalists with 3-month-old elevated IPA when they're used to 2-week-old Headhunter. And I see some brands come into New Mexico, and I'm just thinking, man, state of 2 million people, it costs $1,500 to register your company in the state. You're already working from behind $1,500. Then you got to sign the distribution agreement. Then you're talking about dropping $50,000 to come into this state at the end of the day, and to sell what? What are you going to sell? 3,000 CEs, maybe 4.
Yeah.
If you can't, I firmly believe at this point, if you can't sell 15,000, if we're talking standard priced craft beer, standard price, if you can't sell 15,000 CEs, it's going to be awfully hard to make a state really profitable for yourself. Obviously it depends on the state, depends on how far you got to travel, depends on, what state laws are, what the fees are, but it is very hard to be profitable sending your beer across state lines, and you've got to sell a lot of it.
Yeah. And again, there needs to be that connection to things as well. I looked it up.
Sure.
Ohio has 12 million people, and a 6-pack of 12-ounce cans or bottles of Head High sells for $14.
$14.
Yeah.
A good price. New Mexico is a particularly cheap place to drink craft beer. You can still regularly find elevated around town for on the very high end. It's about $12, maybe $13 a 4-pack. And you can still go into Costco and Total Wine, I believe, and get elevated for $9 a 4-pack.
So let's talk about elevated for a second, because I came up in that era of craft that we were talking about earlier. And, again, young Gen X, and, I'm getting closer to 50 than I care to admit, but it's happening.
Me too.
And it's one of those things where I'm fortunate enough to travel quite a bit, and I like to drink local to where I am as often as I can. I can get a Guinness anywhere, like whatever. But
Sure.
There are certain beers that have entered into the back of my mind that when I'm in the distribution footprint, it's just what I drink. And so I think before I texted you about being on Pluribus, I was in Arizona, in Tucson, on a family vacation early 2025. And, there was a beer store that had Elevate, and I was like, and I, bought 2 4-packs of it, and, drank those pretty quick in the hotel, and, was enjoying it. And what I kind of love is that, I can't get it where I live. And there's that specialness to it. And I think that's part of what killed Fat Tire for New Belgium. I think that there's, a certain thing about Allagash White is really nice, but maybe not in California. I know Rob would probably disagree with me these days, but that's fine. But how has Elevated changed recipe wise, if it has, since the beginning? How have you modified it over time to sort of keep up with those technologies that you were talking about before, to keep up with those innovations and ingredients? And I imagine you guys are big enough, you're selecting lots now that you want for Elevated that speak to the DNA of the beer that maybe you weren't doing in the beginning.
Yeah. So I had no aspirations of turning this into a regional brewery. I mean, pie in the sky dream, sure. But I think our first year out, we brewed 1,300 barrels. I was elated. I was so excited that we had brewed that much beer.
That's no small shakes for back then. for that size. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and we had a direct fire brew house, and um, obviously the gold medal that year was a high point for my career, but it was also, it was the first time I think many people took any notice of beer from New Mexico, and obviously there were several really good breweries in the area at the time, but yeah, I just got lucky and struck gold. But I think so. The beer back then was direct, like I said, direct fire. The yeast was essentially the same. Um, the water profile has pretty much stayed the same.
What is New Mexico's water like?
Well, Albuquerque is on an aquifer. It's about 1,800 feet down, and the hard part is it changes throughout the year. So
Really?
yeah, so like in the spring runoff, the water's maybe about 120 um, parts of hardness, and as it gets by say November, December, it might be as high as like 180. Um, so you do have to adjust, but the malt has completely changed. Back then, we were using Thomas Fawcett's pale malt. I mean, I tried a bunch of different malts early on. I tried Durst pale malt. I've always liked Durst malts.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
Durst is a German maltery. We still use quite a bit of Durst. And I started off trying that. I've tried Thomas Fawcett's. I was really into British pale malts. I liked, back then I liked the IPAs at the time, and I felt like a lot of those IPAs were best when they were brewed with, a little bit of caramel malt, a little bit more Munich or Vienna, and a nice rich British base malt, and then just pop the living snot out of the beer. And for back then, that was like 5 pounds per barrel. Holy, 5 pounds per barrel nowadays? No. That's not gonna work. So anyway, but it always has had onto the hops that people actually care about. It's always had CO2 hop extract for bitterness. Want to say early on we were using Columbus, and I just found that over time that I liked Chinook better. So I want to say by 2013, 2014, a good portion of the kettle edition was Chinook. And it's been that way ever since. And at the time, man, I was buying whatever hops I could get my hands on. I was buying hops from other brewers. I was buying, because back then I didn't have any credit. So it wasn't like I could just, go and, buy a pallet of hops. I had to buy it. When we opened, there was like $1,500 in the bank account. I had to, really, really scrimp and scrounge those first few years. But, I know that if you look at early recipes, Simcoe was heavily, featured. Mosaic was heavily featured because Mosaic was a very new hop when we opened. I want to say Mosaic really became pretty chic around 2012.
Sounds about maybe.
Yeah. And Citra had come out right before we opened. I had not been a huge fan of Citra.
I think Mosaic was later. I think Mosaic was closer to 15, but yeah. Because it was 369, HBC 369 before that, but
we started. I don't know,
the years are starting to melt in my brain, but yeah.
We started using Canadian Superior pale malt. I want to say around 2013, 2014. I brewed a batch with half Canadian Superior pale and half, I want to say it was some kind of British pale malt, and everybody across the board liked the beer better. It was leaner, it was drier, it was, it featured the hops more. What do you know? We're starting to learn it. Yeah. you can defeat some of your hopping by throwing big bold pale malts at it. I was not a scientist, needless to say. Um,
Is malt something that got lost in the IPA conversation in your mind? Because I feel like you've just spent a good amount of time talking about your various malt bills and ones that you've used over time. And I feel like when I have these conversations about IPA, malt is sort of an afterthought. And maybe I'm
you
just
know,
talking to the wrong people,
Hey,
but
I do not have any qualms with somebody making a West Coast IPA that finished at 1 degree Plato and featured 98%, North Star pills and 2% Vienna malt, just for a little something. Um, I don't have qualms with that. Uh, I just like a really bitter beer. And I have a real big problem with throwing, 80, 90, 100 IBUs of bitterness at a beer that is 98% Pils malt and 2% Vienna. To me, that's just, to my palate, it's unbalanced. Um, I grew up on Hop Otten. I grew up on um, Racer 5 and Swami's and these beers that were just, you know, I like to say ruggedly bitter, just really bitter IPAs, and still what I like. It's still what I prefer.
yeah.
Um, and luckily for me, there's enough people that still feel the same way. Um, so I do. We still use caramel malt. We still use Munich in our elevated. We have not switched to Pilsner malt. We still are using. We're now using two row. Um, we just felt like the pale malt was kind of getting in the way. It absolutely has become a leaner and leaner beer over the years.
Yeah.
The finishing gravity has gone down. We didn't have a choice about that. The biggest changes to the beer were in 2015 when we moved to a steam fired 30 barrel brew house. I personally, and I think most of the staff felt like that was an improvement for all but a few of our beers, but
Hmm.
certainly elevated. It was just an improvement, um, and but fermentation profiles basically stayed the same. Dry hops, we've had to move to a great deal of cryo and other extracts because um, we hate the characteristic of re-fermentation in West Coast IPAs. We despise it. The business side of me really doesn't like the economics of a beer taking, 25 days to get in and out of a tank either. But the drinker in me absolutely hates the phenolic mess that happens to West Coast IPAs when they drop a degree Plato after dry hopping. I just can't stand it. To me, it kind of just ruins the beer for me. I would so much rather. I welcomed that change in, I think, I want to say 2023, when we started seeing re-fermentation elevated and had to completely revamp how we were dry hopping that beer. In 2022, elevated was entirely T90 pellets, and was, I want to say 264 pound dry hops in a 120 barrel batch. And now it's mostly various T45 pellets and hop extracts.
Yeah.
And
How do you like
honestly,
the
I
extracts?
I love them. It's so funny, John. I remember every year going to the craft brewers conference from like 2006. I started going, and I
That
feel
sounds
like
about right. Yeah.
every year until like about 2018, 2019, I would go to some sponsored seminar to smell and experience the new product from XYZ company
Yeah.
that was going to revolutionize dry hopping in craft beer. And every time I smelled the beer, I tasted the beer, and I said, nope. And I walked out of the room.
Sure, because you could pick out. I was in those things as well. And sponsor, for those who don't know, it was the company that's trying to sell you the goods on these and trying to convince you. It's like getting like a timeshare speech kind of thing. But it's but yeah, they were back then almost immediately recognizable on the nose,
Absolutely. And
and on mouthfeel as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to tell you that I want to go and make a beer that is 100%, 100% hop extract, dry hop. We did that, and no, I did not. I did not care for it. Now, a beer that's 100% T45 dry hop, totally fine with that. I really do like. I really do like to get T90s into my beer, though. But we pay attention to the diastatic potential of hops, and we just don't use the hops that we know are gonna re-ferment like a bastard. Like Mosaic, we do not use T90 Mosaic pellets on the cold side at all.
Okay.
And we never will, ever again, because we know what we know what's going to happen.
You are, by the way, one of the very few guys that speaks in absolutes like that, where I believe it when you say it.
Well,
I mean, it's like, it's like Calagione once told me, he's like, you're never going to see 120 in Costco. And then when I saw 120 in Costco, I sent him the photo and I was like, never say never, it's like, we're never going to be in cans,
In his defense, Costco is a very good customer of ours.
Yeah, no, so, I get it. Yeah. And it's, makes 120 affordable. But anyway, I believe you when you say it. Yes.
Yeah. And it's not because I don't think that Mosaic T90s are beautiful. We totally use whole leaf Mosaic, but the T45s, we just know we can use them and not get any re-fermentation with those. The other back to the subject of recipe, though, the other big change that happened when we switched to steam fired is we added a hop back, and so Elevated became this beer that had not been hop back. It had not been any hop backing before. It's a beer that has since 2015, and to me that's a game changer. I love having whole leaf in the brew house. I think, and I do think it really benefits the beer overall. But yeah, I think that was a huge change. The move to T45s and hop extracts in the dry hop. Those are all big changes. The thing that has not changed, and so the director of brewery operations, I've been working with for the most part since 2006. The head brewer, and he came on here with me.
You mean at your company? Yeah.
No, not at my company. He was my boss for a spell at Blue Corn Cafe and Brewery up in Santa Fe.
Okay.
And I've known him since 2003, Daniel Jaramillo, and he came on board with our company in 2012, and he's been here ever since. Alan, our head brewer, came on in 2014, and he became head brewer in 2017, and he's still with our company. Scott, my CFO, is one of the original investors. Paul, our sales director, came on before we ever opened. We have these people around us that have like the institutional knowledge of what elevated IPA is. And I can say with absolutely no hesitance that elevated IPA is the best version of itself that it's ever been right now. It's excellent. And it's also so much more stable than it used to be. And that's another thing. Most of the people that are drinking elevated are drinking it out of the can. And our canning line got, an upgrade in 2022. And oh my God. I mean, yes, I still absolutely want people coming into the brewery and getting the beer, 2 days old, or hopefully going to somewhere around Albuquerque or Santa Fe and getting the beer, brewed, canned within the last week. But I always go to a liquor store when I'm in Denver or when I'm in Durango or when I'm in Silverton or when I'm in Leadville, Colorado, or when I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona, I always go and pick up a 4-pack of Elevated, and I never look at the date before I buy it. I look at the date after I buy it, and then I go, I'm either like, whew, or yeesh. And it shouldn't surprise me how much better than it was, 10 years ago. But oh my God, the quality, when you do move to a truly commercial grade canning line, one that does, pre-evac and has a proper filling system and a proper steaming system, and it does make a world of difference. And QA/QC lab helps a lot too. But yeah, no, I mean the beer is. I'm going to go have one after I'm done talking to you. I'm thrilled with where it's at right now, and I feel like the spirit of it is still very much intact. It's it might look a shade or two lighter than it used to, because we found out of some of those darker malts create characteristics in aged beer that we don't really like.
Mm-hmm.
But the bitterness level is the same as it's always been. It's bitter. We usually measure it in the high 70s, low 80s. It said 100 when we opened because I think I calculated like 150, and I said, sure, it's 100. And
Sure.
I didn't have the ability to test it. Now, we've had the ability to test the beer for the last, 12 years, and it stayed consistent across several different products. But,
Well, I'll let you go get that beer in a minute, but there's just a few other things I want to bring up with you really
yeah,
fast.
absolutely.
I mean, one, just to sort of talk about the uncompromising approach that you've had with the brewery. As we've been talking, I dialed the website back up because I wanted to remind myself of something. But the first 3 beers that show up on your website, Elevated IPA first, and then your Hefeweizen, and then your stout. And like, those are the beers that you're leading with, which feels very 2011 to me. But also,
man.
no, but in a way that gets me like super excited, where it's like, yeah, you want people to be drinking your Hefe, like, yeah, you want people to be drinking your stout, and then like we get into acclimated and a blue corn Mexican lager, which also sounds delightful, and then beer, your Tettnang hop lager, like, but just that you're leading with what we can now call old school IPA. That's still obviously vibrant in the way that you just described, but then a Hefeweizen and a stout, like that's like it's from a different time, but a time that I miss, and also that I think if people refamiliarize themselves with, they'd be happy. Is
Yeah.
that, I mean, that's got to be purposeful, putting those 3 up top.
They're the first 3 that we packaged.
Okay.
The
Right, so it's chronological. Yeah.
kind of. I mean, obviously, Elevated is what we're going to lead with.
Yeah.
It's what I mean. I would venture a guess that bartenders in New Mexico get asked for a La Cumbre as much as they get asked for an Elevated.
I mean,
The
that's a
beer
cool
is
compliment, but yeah.
kind of the beer is kind of synonymous with the company. And if you see the logo for the can and you see the logo for the company, you're like, man, those are very close. And that was purposeful. And it's still 50. I want to say 56% of our sales. The Hefeweizen for the longest time was the number 2 selling SKU for us. I'm really proud of that beer. I love that beer. I drink that beer often, especially this time of year. We've worked really hard to hone in that recipe and hone in the fermentation profile and all that on that beer. And yeah, wheat beer's having a rough time, wheat beer's having a rough go right now. But I again, it's one of those things I feel like is truly cyclical. And Hefeweizen's having a moment in Germany. I was able to try one at Ondex last time I was there. I was like, well,
That's
that's
fun.
new.
Yeah.
And I think there's no reason for me to believe that it won't here. And stout, stout's obviously not having a great moment right now. I think maybe you got me thinking that I should like replace that with whatever our seasonal lager is, because that's what's getting those brand loyalists excited. Those
Yeah, but I
seasonal
don't
lagers.
want the hate mail of like, oh, you knocked stout off of the website. No, I don't, like I don't want to be
No, you won't
responsible
knock
for
it
that.
off the website.
Yeah.
It is, I actually brewed a batch yesterday of that beer. I, I love that beer. I love the whole, the whole goal with that beer was to make something that was as rich and roasty and chocolatey as you mentioned, Old Rasputin. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
Old Rasputin, but not quite so strong. And I feel like I accomplished that. It won me a bunch of medals, and I'm really proud of that beer. And I don't drink it often enough because when I was 30 and we opened 7.5% stout, it didn't scare me. Now I'm like, can I have a 10 ounce? I want a 10 ounce.
I mean, yeah.
But
But then the problem is it's like, well, now I'm going to have another 10 ounce and then
sure.
I've had 20 instead of 16. But yeah, that's,
Right. I end up,
it's my kind of math. Yeah.
yeah, I don't, I think that those are the beers that are kind of most synonymous with those brand loyalists, and and we're all super proud of them. So yeah, we feature them.
So the other day, Maureen Ogle, who wrote the Ambitious Brew book,
Mm-hmm.
was posting on social media asking about bloggers in the early days of craft, and who stood out, and all of the names that we all know kind of popped up, and somebody on the thread, and I'd have to go back and look, was like, I hope you mention Jeff Erway and his contributions to rate beer back then as being influential in a way that I guess got people thinking. And that site is not what it used to be. In fact, I don't think that site is anymore.
It exists anymore now.
And but I want to go back to what those early days of reviewing, of sharing knowledge, like there wasn't necessarily gatekeeping in the beginning. I think it was general excitement that a lot of folks had, and just wanted to kind of share stuff, and then it sort of became that weird secondary, and then it just kind of became a ticking contest, and let's all get badges and things like that. But like, what can we learn from those early days of online beer reviews and beer conversation that we could bring to 2026 in a positive way? Because I think when you mention the son of those site of that site, the ones that came later, there's a lot of, especially among brewing pros, of like, like they don't know what they're talking about, and it's, it democratized things, I think, on some level. But like, what can we learn from those early days of rate beer and what you all were doing? And are there positive things that we could bring to today?
Man, I was trying beer on Fish Tour. That's what I was doing. I was walking up and down Haight-Ashbury Street and buying whatever bottles people showed up with, and it was so
I didn't know.
cool.
I didn't know that that's what it was. Okay,
I was like, I mean, I won't say how old I was because
that's fine.
it was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
But you walk up and down you walk up and down Shakedown Street, and there's people from all over the country, and these people from all over the country are bringing beers like Hales and Bridgeport and Pyramid and all these breweries that no longer exist. And I got to try all of them. And I traded people I was bringing Omegang, or I was bringing Middle Ages, or I was bringing Ithaca.
Wow.
And
Flower power or something else?
a Flower Power wasn't out yet.
Okay.
We're talking back in the 90s.
Oh, so you're doing like apricot, like the Ithaca apricot and things like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And and I started, on my dial-up internet. I remember the day sitting at my roommate's desk because I couldn't afford a PC at the time, and and I was just trying to look up what breweries might be anywhere near where I was. I was in Geneva, New York. I went to Hobart College, and it was pretty slim pickings back then. We're talking about when there were only a few hundred craft breweries in the whole country.
Yeah.
Right. And but somehow, searching, it probably was Yahoo. Yeah, probably back then it was Yahoo.
Boy, like the old yodeling commercial just went through my head. I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to sing it for people, but that's how old we are collectively.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
You've got mail.
Right. And so, it was that anticipation of the few seconds of like, does somebody really like me? Because like it wasn't just spam and
Yeah. So I looked up, and Rate Beer popped up, and I clicked on it, and it took like 30 seconds to load the first page, and I remember scrolling and said places directory or something, and I clicked on it, and it sure as shit, it came up with every brewery in New York State, and I got an account right then and there, and I want to say I was in the first. I was certainly in the first like 1,000 or so members, I think. I don't know. You can ask Joe Tucker. He could probably tell you.
Joe's not going to talk to me, but that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm not. I'm all right.
Oh, okay.
I sleep well.
Okay, good. Joe and I are friendly.
No, I'm being mysterious on purpose to be like, oh wow, like what's the beef between Tucker and there's no beef. Like there's no like it's
well.
He just wouldn't know who I am if I called him. So okay. That's all. Yeah.
So anyways, and I immediately like rated like my first like 18 beers, and they were the stupidest ratings. They were so terrible and completely uneducated. No, I didn't know anything at all. I knew what I liked. I knew what I tasted. I knew what I liked.
Sure.
And that started a love affair. My wife, then girlfriend, was the greatest partner I could ever possibly imagine to drive my drunk ass around this country of ours and taste beer, drink beer everywhere we went. And I would go, we would, travel, and wherever we went, we would try beer, and I would introduce myself to the brewers, and I would rate beers, and I would keep detailed notes about every beer I drank, and I drank thousands of them.
You were prolific.
Yeah, I was prolific, but not nearly as much as like say Josh Oakes.
Sure.
And I got to meet people like that. I got to meet Josh. I got to meet, Dave Whalen, and these really great individuals who were just absolute craft loyalists. I remember being a little fanboy and introducing myself to Tommy Arthur like in 2002, and getting a tour from Peter Zine at AleSmith right around that same time, and then heading up the coast, and Mark Rudrick at North Coast showed me around, and I totally visited Russian River and Vinny at the time. And Alan Sprints, God rest his soul,
yeah,
spent hours chatting with this annoying little, annoying like 22-year-old kid who was just fanatic about craft beer. And then I moved to a place that didn't have any craft beer, and I started home brewing. Um, and then I really like leaned into to the commercial brewers and tried to talk to as many as I could and get as many tips as I could. And I was the typical story of the home brewer that just took it way too seriously. And I took that on to Rate Beer, and I was on the home brewing forums there, and I tried to share my knowledge as much as I could. Not that, I would cringe. I cringe to think some of the things I said on there that would be held against me today. But
yeah, don't go back and read your old writing.
No,
I'm a firm believer as my profession. I don't even
yeah, it'd be a bad idea. But I know that several current commercial brewers, were on that forum back in the 2000s and are still commercial brewers to this day. And I've met them, and, some of them I've gotten to thank for giving me, some really sage advice. And I've been thanked more times than I probably deserved for giving good advice to budding home brewers that were on that site. But, that site self-selected for people that were really serious about craft beer. So the home brewers that were on the site were pretty serious too. And a lot of us traded to try each other's home brew and give each other critiques. And it was a very, very fun time to get into craft beer. And I am so utterly grateful that I had the privilege of the ability to kind of get into it as early as I did. And obviously, that there are plenty of guys in the industry that have been doing this a heck of a lot longer than I have. But coming up on 20 years now, that's a big chunk of time. And I feel like I got in. I feel like I was almost like one of the last of the generation to like really see craft beers, the craft beer renaissance, and to get to really experience all of the irrational exuberance around many of these, great breweries and the industry in general.
But I guess that kind of goes back to what I was asking and what we were talking about before of, are there ways of doing that now? Are there ways of getting people excited? I mean, I feel like we take craft for granted because there are, 9,600 breweries. I mean, yeah, you're right. Like when you first started, there's a couple hundred. I remember my first article was like made a passing reference to, of the 750 breweries in America.
Yeah, right.
Like that kind of thing. Like, when you're on Apple TV, when you're doing all these things, like how, like, is there anything from back then that we could, in your mind, translate to today to just get people, I don't know, excited again or interested again, or, insert word here?
I'm certainly trying. We tap, I say 25 times a year, we tap a Stitch Foss on the bar top on a Friday night. And again, they're not the people that are brand new to craft beer. They're the craft beer loyalists. They're the brand loyalists. And they're loyal to our brand. And they are so excited when they see me or one of the brewers come out with a Stitch Foss of, this past Friday, it was our Oktoberfest. And we drained 2 of those things at our two 30 liters at the brewery, and then in the 30 liter at the West Side tap room in a matter of, a couple hours. I love that.
I do too.
So to me, I think like,
and it's built for social media. It's built for cool content and like, I want to participate in that. Yeah.
And let me tell you, man, you just throw out so much less beer than you did with real ale, with cask conditioned beers. it's a much easier sell to the American customer. Uh, so I think stuff like that can be fun. I think offering people authentic experiences still works. I think you know hiring the right social media people that are excited about what you're doing. That excited, I am far more concerned about what gets my brewers excited because by and large they're a lot younger than me. I'm far more concerned about what gets our bartenders excited because at the end of the day, those are our salespeople. And by and large, they're a lot younger than me. And our salesmen, all of them are younger. Um, our social media director, she's a lot younger than me. And I love to see them get excited about an event, a new beer, a Stitch Foss being tapped on the bar top. Because if it's getting them excited, they'll get our brand loyalists excited. They will.
Yeah.
They'll sell the beer. They'll get it sold. And they'll get people excited about it. They'll get everybody else excited about it. And word travels, and we are the big grower, man. For the big growers for us are like our different seasonal lagers. Kolsch too. Miles from Cologne is sells really well every year for us.
Do you guys do Kolsch service as well?
We do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fun. I still haven't been to a brewery in the US that does it. Like I see them advertised all the time, and like I
do
just
it on
want to.
Saturday afternoons. We do it on Saturday afternoons.
Like regularly?
While the beer's on. Yeah, while the beer is on draft,
Okay.
we do it on Saturday afternoons. And it's a pain to when you have customers that are moving tables, and when you have customers that are trying having Kolsch but then having different beers too. It's a challenge to do it, but it's fun, and the customers get excited about it. And a couple of our staff are really good word workers, and they wanted to make the Kolsch crons, and that's fun. They got it again. I want to see our staff members get excited. If our staff members get excited, our customers, specifically our brand loyalists, those people will get really excited.
New Mexico, I think, is like one of 5 or 6 states that I have not yet been to, and now I feel like I have to come on a Saturday.
I'm telling you, no, and everybody that's listening should heed this advice.
Nobody listens to this, but yeah, no, go ahead.
October. If you haven't been to the Balloon Fiesta in early October,
The what?
I can't recommend the Balloon Fiesta, the International Balloon Fiesta. The Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta attracts over 100,000 people every year. And, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 balloons go up between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. It is a spectacle. It's amazing. It's amazing just to be in the city during that time. There's an electricity that happens. And obviously the most expensive time of year to come here, and but for good reason. And by and large, it's a very affordable city to come visit. But come late October, there is nowhere in America that has better weather than New Mexico. And no one's here. No one's here in late fall. Late October, early November, nobody comes to New Mexico. It's a quite slow period, not only business wise for us, but it's just the trails are all empty. You have the trails to yourself. The colors of the aspens are vibrant, and the nights are chilly, and the days are just lovely. You very often have a high of 68, maybe 70 degrees, and sunny for days. You won't see a cloud for weeks on end. And
that's
it's
wild.
Yeah. And the food's great. Beer's great. It's awesome. I moved here 24 years ago, and people ask me how I like it. And I always say, if it, God forbid, but if my business collapsed and my wife left me, I would not leave the state of New Mexico. I love it here. It is home. And um, yeah, I feel very fortunate to have met my wife for many reasons, and not the least of which is she brought me here.
I hope neither of those things happen. But
Yeah, me too.
all right, before I let you go, have that well-deserved IPA after talking with me for so long now.
Of course.
I want to ask you the final question, which is the green door question on this show. So, a different television show from Pluribus, one called The Good Place, in the final season, introduces the concept of a green door. And in it, the characters can walk through the green door and be anywhere they want, doing whatever they want. So, Jeffrey Erway, if we had a green door on our plane of existence and you could walk through it and be in any pub or any brewery anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? Who would you want to be with? And what would you like to be drinking?
John, I want to sit down at Maltzmühle in Cologne and get Kolsch service with you now.
Sold. Done.
So, yeah, I want to be served Kolsch from the Stitchfoss. I want to order Schweinhaxen and sit there in that absolutely world-class pub drinking what to me is the greatest Kolsch on earth.
I love it.
Cool.
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, John. It's great talking to you.
As always, if you want to reach out, you can do so by dropping me a line via email. It's johnhall@allaboutbeer.com. That's JOHNHOLL at allaboutbeer.com. Make sure you join the This Week in Rauch Beer group on Facebook or follow at TW Rauch Beer on Instagram. Upload your photos, join the conversation. And you can support us by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support. When you're at the website, check out the new content as well as the archives and follow the links to follow All About Beer on social media. Before we run, here is a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business.
Tim Shasha from Berkeley Yeast here. When I was the director of brewing at Cellarmaker, there was a time when I was really wrestling with hop creep and diacetyl. I'd be dumping liters of ALDC into the tank at knockout at dry hop before cooling, just hoping that it would work. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. That's when I reached out to my friends over at Berkeley Yeast. I was like, why don't you just put the ALDC in the yeast? And the next thing I knew, Fresh Chico was born. Just like that, all my hop creep woes were gone, which was really cool. But an even bigger thing I noticed is that when I switched, all my beers were popping more. And that's when I figured out that diacetyl doesn't just mean butter. It was also dulling the brightness and intensity of my hops, masking those flavors even when D was below threshold. For me, Fresh Chico was a life changer. And now that you can get it dry, it's easy to use and competitively priced. It's the full package. Find out more at berkeleyyeast.com.
As promised, I am back with Jordan Kellum. He's the brand manager of Harpoon Brewery, which is part of Barrel One Collective, and the company is a sponsor of this episode. And we're talking about the collaboration with LL Bean, Flannel Friday. And I'm wondering, Jordan, why LL Bean is a good brand partner for Harpoon.
Yeah, definitely. Really, when in the fall, when you think of New England and you think of getting outside and shared adventures with friends and family, there's no company that really comes to mind more, in my opinion, than LL Bean. And I'm sure many would agree. And so we really wanted to capture that essence. And that's really the root of why Flannel Friday exists. It's really to get outside with friends and family and, go apple picking or, go leaf peeping, whatever it might be. And just all these, quintessential fall New England activities that, you only have so much time to get out there and do. We want to be able to celebrate them and, of course, want the perfect beer to pair with that. And so we wanted to partner with a company with shared values and commitment to quality, craftsmanship, well established in the New England area, and just known for their love of the great outdoors. And so we felt like they were the perfect company to reach out to. And we really do share a lot of the same values. And I think our collaboration tagline really says it best, which is gather friends, get outside.
I really like that. So aside from this beer, what else can people expect from this partnership?
Yeah, aside from the beer, people can expect we're currently in the middle of our pretty extensive sweepstakes, which we partner with LL Bean on, which is where people can go to the Harpoon website, visit our one of our homepage tiles, and enter to win a trip for two to the Outdoor Discovery Center up in Freeport, Maine, that LL Bean hosts, where they have a variety of activities. This particular activity is a trip for two for the ultimate overnight kayaking experience, where you go to Freeport, you camp out. Kayak around the islands, food is included, And it's just a really great quintessential Maine experience. And so that'll be live now through October 15th. And of course, to celebrate the collaboration, we got to have a collaborative flannel. So we took their Bean of Freeport flannel, we embroidered them with Harpoon and LL Bean, and they will be available exclusively at our 3 taproom locations in Boston, Manchester, New Hampshire, and Windsor, Vermont, through the end of the fall selling season while supplies last. And I'm wearing one right now, and it is incredibly cozy. So it's perfect.
I like that. Well, thanks, Jordan. Congrats on the collaboration. We're thankful for the company's support in sponsoring this episode as well. So you can enter the contest. You can learn more about this collaboration and just get all of the information on Harpoon that you need by visiting harpoonbrewery.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John.
If you like smart audio content, a reminder, All About Beer has a separate podcast channel. Search and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Listen to shows like One Iconic Beer, Brewer to Brewer, and the All About Beer podcast with Dom Tess and Em Souter. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday. The BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. And on this show, Nate Schweber does the music. Jeff Quinn designed our logo. I'm John Hall. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.